On today's episode, I'm joined by project engineer Ryan Damman and fellow marketeers Judd, Jarzynka and Preston Lentfer. We're talking the 2022 Antelope Extravaganza. Preston and Ryan both have 2 tags for Antelope this year, and we get some insight from Judd on a past experience in an area that these guys will be hunting as well. I had a great time with this conversation. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hornady Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Seth, and I'm joined today around the table with a good group of guys. I've got to my left, marketeer Preston Lentfer, and then across the table, project engineer Ryan Damman, and relative newcomer to the podcast, marketeer Judd Jarzynka. Guys, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, you bet. Judd's been behind the camera a lot.
Yeah.
First time on it.
Yeah, it's sure nice. A little change of scenery here. I've been behind the scenes with Preston for far too long now, so.
Front and center.
Yeah, well, and that's why I said relative newcomer, because there's probably not been anyone more intimately involved with the podcast than Mr. Judd Jarzynka right here.
Yep.
And I'd say involved with, because one, he's literally sat 6 feet to my right for every podcast we've ever recorded. But before that, before I was even in marketing, he was in the ear of everybody that would listen. Hey, we need a Hornady podcast. We need to get this thing off the ground. And eventually, he got it off the ground.
Yeah. I don't know if I can take all the credit for that. There was a whole plethora of people that were about
That's true.
it. But
well, it does.
as well as Preston.
Yeah.
Preston, we're fellow video guys here on the marketing team, so it's kind of been a team effort. But
yeah, it takes a village, as most things do. But
yeah. And as we get this podcast off the ground, speaking of this podcast, drop a comment down below. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want to learn about. We'll be happy to accommodate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point, because, yeah, we sometimes get focused on what we think is cool and interesting, and we want to hear what everybody else is into. Yep. So, yeah, appreciate that, guys. Well, I didn't gather you around to just talk about Judd as much as we like Judd. It is darn close to hunting season, and I mean not even close right now, but it feels like it is, because I think all of us have been bitten by the infectious bug like we get bit every year. Preston and I were driving to lunch today talking about, like, oh my gosh, it's 2 months and we could be talking about hunting here. So we're getting absolutely switched on for hunting, and I can't even begin to describe or contain my excitement for 2022 hunting season.
It feels like the bug has hit a little earlier than it normally does this year for whatever reason.
Yeah, it does. And
does it ever go away? Mm-hmm. You just have to quit talking about it for a while. You got to force yourself.
Yeah, you gotta come up. You gotta come to work with your nose to the stone, ready to get work done. But then there's like 6 months out of the year where, man, it's a struggle to get anything done. For the listeners out there, I feel like we've done a pretty good job of giving you guys a sneak peek into, kind of behind the scenes and the day-to-day with Hornady and getting to know certain people here in the company. But every single day for the last several weeks, my office is right next to your guys's. We're walking in the morning, and Ryan Damman's on. Judd, I got a message from Ryan. He's talking whitetail. He got a new sail cam we're going to put out, and it's just all we're talking about. So we're going to focus that energy and that excitement from just broad level, it's getting close to hunting season and we can taste it, to a little more specific. As it turns out, I'm going to call this the year of the antelope for you guys, because Preston and Ryan both ended up with not one, but 2 awesome antelope tags in 3 different states. And Judd has some experience hunting in one of those areas specifically, and he's got a pretty cool story that we always relive and watch the videos and see the pictures of. And antelope, for me, is one of my most favorite animals to pursue. I don't know about you guys.
I'd agree. And favorite just because of different. And I don't know if that's just for me, but, we're central Nebraska. We're whitetail. We're waterfowl. You go a little ways out west here, and you have antelope, and they're just so weird but cool. I don't know. They're funky.
Just hunt them way different than you would hunt a whitetail in central Nebraska.
Yeah, that's true. And, I think we all grew up and really cut our teeth in hunting as whitetail hunters primarily. And then, you get out west. You don't have to go far from here to get in some antelope, and the style in which you hunt them. And probably my favorite thing about it is the feeling you get when you are pursuing an animal with your glass and you're trying to find something, and all of a sudden you see an ear or a nose or a head, or you see a good buck or whatever, and you get all excited. Well, you get that like every 10 or 15 minutes when you're antelope hunting, because usually finding the game is not necessarily always the problem, but it's like that dopamine hit of like, there they are right there. And I don't know, it's fun to find what you're after.
Yeah. And they kind of, growing up, they got a terrible rap as far as table fare.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody said they're terrible. They taste like sage. I don't want to give secrets away, but that is my favorite game meat out there. And I've not had a whole bunch, but it's, in my opinion, it's better than elk. It's better than deer.
I agree.
100%, hands in, antelope's the champion of anything you can kill in Nebraska and eat. There's no doubt.
If prepped properly. And maybe that's something we should hit on.
There's a caveat there.
That's a good idea.
I've had both times. The very first antelope I shot was a doe, I don't know, a handful of years ago. But anyway, it was rifle season. It was cold. So we ended up having a successful hunt, got the antelope down. I was with a friend of mine. He shot a buck. I shot a doe. And, just like a whitetail, let's throw them in the back of the truck and cruising around, and took it back to the shed, hung it. I can't remember if it was just overnight. I think it was overnight. And then we drove home, a handful of hours home, and cut that thing up and tried to make a steak out of that thing. It was not very good. So going forward, the other antelope I've harvested, and I think you guys can attest to this, get that hide off of there as quick as you can, and it's a whole different ball game.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's what I heard going into it. So that first year we went out, had that thing skinned within 15 minutes, snapped a few pictures, skin was off. And I think that's a huge thing. Their hair is such a good insulator.
It's hollow. It's hollow core, yeah. So it
Yep.
holds that air in, creates that little buffer, that thermo buffer. And
we walked 3 miles back,
Yeah.
unskinned, and it was still delicious. It was relatively hot that day, but we're getting off topic.
Yeah,
maybe
let's
a little bit.
let's go first to the tag that you all three have in common. Nebraska, we've talked about this, is largely, you could split this whole state in half, and they're two incredibly different and diverse landscapes. And in that western half, we've got great populations of a lot of things, but antelope being one of them. And you guys have put in for a lot of years, and you finally drew on the same year the same permit that Judd drew. Was it 2 years ago now?
2 or 3, that's true. I probably should have checked on that before we started this. But yeah, it's been a couple of years. 3 years, I think, because I'm looking back at my points, and I think I have about my third point this year. So I think it's been probably 3.
Yeah, it was 19, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And the hunt that you guys target is a muzzleloader tag, which seems counterintuitive that it's not a rifle tag, but we make some great muzzleloading products. Ryan, you are, the muzzleloader guy when it comes to Hornady and bullet design with the Board Driver FTX. But that tag is pretty unique in that you get a little bit less people out there. You're just fighting less people in the field, and makes for a better hunt.
And unlike the whitetail muzzleloader season in Nebraska, the muzzleloader antelope season is actually before the rifle season.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's
really
a
Big benefit.
a huge perk.
Yeah, it is. And I think a primitive season should come before a less primitive season, and I think our deer season should probably follow. Long story short, completely tangential. Let's focus on antelope. I want to hear Judd's story of how his hunt went down, because it's such a fun hunt, and you got to do it completely solo,
Yeah.
which, hunting with the guys and hunting with your buddies is always fun. I love to share experiences, but there's also something to it about, being by yourself and having a good time out there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have heard most of the story, but you guys will be licking your lips by the end of it. Judd, what happened here? Western Nebraska, you got the old smoke pole out, bought a new muzzleloader for the trip.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that part too. So yeah, I was actually, first I started out in Colorado. So from Nebraska to Colorado, was on a family vacation, did that for a couple days, and then cruised up back to Nebraska to do this antelope hunt. And it ended up being, I'm sure I probably planned it this way, but it ended up being like a Tuesday through Thursday hunt, which anybody who, listens to podcasts or tries to hunt public land no brainer. That's probably the best time to go, just less pressure. So
Mm-hmm.
it ended up just working out like that because of my schedule. I took off that whole week, spent the first weekend out with family, and then that Monday did the drive-in to hunt Tuesday morning. And yeah, it was cool. I've been in the area before, so I archery hunted it back in the day. I think maybe when I was in college or right after college. So I was familiar with the area. I didn't go out and do any pre-scouting or anything that year. But anyway, just got up there. I think I got up there with some light left that first day, that Monday night, and I cruised around, kind of had an idea where I wanted to go. Ended up finding a place to camp, threw up the tent right next to the truck, and stayed under the stars, which wasn't very much of a roughing it type of deal because I had the truck right there by me. But it was still cool. It's just cool being out there. So
yeah, that not to stop you right there, but that in and of itself, when you talk about Western hunts, and Nebraska is kind of in the plains or the prairie area, not necessarily Western. But you get on those hunts, well, we live in a town. We come to work in a town. And just to be so desolate in western Nebraska, I mean, that's the definition of desolate. There's just nothing out there. And it's just fun being alone in the desolation. So that in and of itself, like you said, is cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I enjoyed it. Just hearing coyotes and different creatures just, I don't know, making noise or whatnot all evening long is pretty cool. So anyway, I think I still had time. I think I shot my muzzleloader just since the travel or whatnot. I actually taped up on some fence, target, and took a couple shots. And that muzzleloader, everybody's probably got their own way of, getting that thing to shoot or whatnot. My thing was, whether it was fact or just a mental thing, I had to have 2 shots on that gun before I took it out to hunt. I had to have 2 shots on it. And that was just I don't know, thing that maybe made me more confident. But anyway, I got my 2 shots. They were good, grouped good, so I was ready for that morning. So I woke up and just started trekking in this piece of public that I was camped by, and it didn't take too long. And I'm pretty sure just a couple hills in, I popped up an antelope, and it's like, it's right away in the trip. I'm an hour into this, not even. And my whole thing going out there, and we could probably talk on this too, but one of my draws to antelope, and maybe at some point I'll get past this, but I've only harvested a handful of antelope. So to me, an antelope is an antelope. I hate to say it. So it's like the scoring thing or the pressure, that I put on myself, which I'm trying to get better at for a whitetail, is, it's got to be an older deer or so big a rack or whatnot. And all that for me went out the window for an antelope. It's like, I'm hunting for an antelope. I mean, there's one right there.
Yeah. And you're looking for character too, probably. It's not about the score. You just like how things look. Yeah.
So ultimately, what you just said, that was my deciding factor on that first buck I saw. I'm like, yeah, it's a good antelope, but it's just an antelope. I don't know why I had that line in my head, but I told myself, like, it's just an antelope. It's the first day. It's just an antelope. I'm going to keep going, walk past him, and see what I can turn up. And that in itself, on Nebraska public land, has not been my experience. I actually got to walk by a shooter animal. I've never had that before. So that right there was a huge victory. So I passed that one up, or didn't attempt to try to get in a shooting position on him, and then hiked around. And I went slow. I was just more enjoying the day, checking things out. I ended up finding a couple of trail cameras that somebody had out there. So, and the best thing about that is I walked past them. Didn't mess with them like some people tend to do, or experiences some people have had.
We should probably have that on it. We could do a public land blunders thing.
Oh, yeah.
We've all got stories, but
yeah.
So you didn't touch trail cameras. Good on you.
Yeah.
And looking for goats.
So yeah, I just spent the rest of that morning just meandering around. And the other thing, this is kind of a side note, but there's a bunch of different like dirt roads, the farmers' roads or the ranchers' roads, I guess out there is what they'd be. And it's a little tricky. You got to know your stuff to know if those are public roads or private roads or whatnot. And ultimately, I decided to myself that I'm pretty sure those are private roads. I'm not going to use them. So I was walking past all these roads or whatnot, and I saw a couple rigs drive through, but I'm assuming it was just a rancher. Come to find out, looking back at the maps, I'm pretty sure those roads were public. So I could have drove in there, but I didn't know that at the time. So the perk of going midweek probably helped me there. There was minimal traffic. So
we've been on on an experience like that where we could have driven on roads and walked, and it turned out great.
We could have driven to 100 yards within a dead animal, and instead we walked it for 3 miles out. It was great. It was great. Great experience.
That's the way this story's going here. And
Hard work pays off.
Yeah, and it was awesome. So anyway, I passed that first go up, found those trail cameras, hanging out, ended up having to cross a creek. In recent time, I became a big waterfowler, and so there was ducks and coots and things out there. So I spent a handful of time just watching them in my binos and messing with them. So that was cool too. Ended up finding a place to cross the creek, turned up another antelope, and kind of just the same story. Like, man, it's so early. I've got a few days this week, and so far I haven't seen anybody other than those ranchers' rigs. So again, I just told myself why I had that line, but that's just an antelope. So I walked past that one. Ended up coming on a prairie dog town, and I don't know if this is you guys.
Did you smoke pull them?
No, I thought about it, but when I'm out there out west, not so much around here, but when I'm out west and I come across the prairie dog town, I'm super hesitant to walk across them.
Oh, rattlesnakes.
I know, and I don't. Yeah. I know it's probably me just getting in my own mind, but I'm just like thing. Me being a Central Nebraska whitetail guy. I'm going around, or I'm tiptoeing, watching every step.
Well, I wasn't concerned before, but I am
now. So, well, and you're out there by yourself, and yeah, you know what? That's a good decision. Yeah. I mean, it's a unnecessary risk, and the chances of seeing one, however small they are, and then the chances of it being aggressive enough that it, bites you or you actually get bit is probably pretty small. But you're out there by yourself. You know they like to live in those prairie dog towns. I'm out of there. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, I do tiptoe through and I get past the prairie dog town with no snakes. So that was a victory. And then we're probably getting about lunchtime, and I turned up a third antelope. And, I told myself the same line, but it's like, this is Nebraska public land. Do I really want to pass a third antelope? So anyway, I'm looking this third antelope over and looking at him. And he was, out of the two that I passed, he was probably the smaller of the three, I guess, out of the three that him included. He was probably one of the smaller ones. But as I'm looking at him, I see super soft way off behind him.
Out of focus,
another antelope. And I couldn't tell you distance. I couldn't even guess it, but far enough that it's hard to see. But I can see width, which is sneaky. I know it doesn't mean anything to the score, but right when I saw that width, I'm like, there he is. That's what I'm going for. Something different, Yeah. I had that line of that's just an antelope, and I find this wide one. So target acquired. And where he's at, he's actually on private at the time. I pull up my maps, and I can see that he's on private. But he's working down the ridge, and that ridge line leads right into public. So I'm like, all right, I got a boogie over there. And then you do the whole thing with the closer antelope that I'm going to pass or walk by. How do I get around him to not booger him, clear over, and run that one on? So I play a little cat and mouse game with that one, ended up getting by him. And finally get clear around, run into a bunch of cattle, which you're bound to do out there. So they kind of like start grouping up on you and making
a feed truck.
Yeah, they start making a scene. So I'm behind the hill, get out of here, cow, trying to they're blowing your cover or whatnot. So anyway, I get past them and finally make it up to where I think that antelope is going to be and can't turn him up. And I've been guilty of this, and I need to get better of I'll give up on the situation. Like, he should be here. Where is he at? He's not here. And I'll give it a little bit of time. And then I subconsciously, I don't know, I find myself standing up and we're just getting lazy. And that almost bit me in the butt. So I started walking back up this other ridge, coming deeper into public, and have to hit the floor because I walk up and he's about 140 yards away from me. So it almost bit me in the butt. I've done that spot and stock whitetail where I don't know why, just learning curves, I guess.
Yeah, hard to be patient.
I just, get lazy. So anyway, that about bit me in the butt on that stinking antelope. So I dropped to the floor. I guess I should have said before this, I had just a little Sony Handycam camera with me. So I was kind of filming on and off through the whole thing and end up getting that camera set up. to get on the antelope. Turns out he had a whole group of does, 7 or 8 does with him, does and fawns. But I got the camera set up and on him, and enough, squirreling around or whatnot to get the tripod out and the muzzleloader, and they're kind of feeding away from me. So I think when I finally took the shot, I guessed it at, I don't know, probably 160 or something. I don't know if it's quite that far, but not a tremendous amount to make a huge adjustment, but it is muzzleloader. So end up finally getting him to never really give me a full broadside shot, but he kind of quarters away and kind of looks with his head and gives me a pretty good shot, a shot that ended up putting him down. So, it was pretty surreal, but I ended up getting the shot and dropping that antelope where he stood. So that was pretty stinking cool. And the other thing, again, just not exposed to antelope a lot, the sounds those things make. So after that happened, those does and the fawn, like a whistly, weird nasally sound is just kind of unique too. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard that.
I have not, but I haven't hunted a ton of antelope.
Yeah,
either.
they make a weird. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a weird sound. But so anyway, they start making their little alarm sounds or whatnot. So that was cool to hear. And I gathered my things and run up there, and it's a nice score wise. I couldn't even tell you. I wouldn't say he's out of the 2 bucks I shot. He's probably the smaller of the 2, but he had the cool width that was pretty stinking sweet on Nebraska public land. And for a big game animal, that's the first thing I've ever harvested on Nebraska public land. So that was pretty cool. So
that sounds cool.
That whole morning, that probably ended up happening about 3:00 in the afternoon or something. And I was sipping on my water the whole time. And why I did this, when I filled my water bladder in my pack the night before, I had my whole pack loaded. So I, dumped until it was full. Well, obviously it was compressed because I had my pack full of junk. So I didn't get an adequate amount of water in my pack. So right after I shot that thing, I took my last swig of water. Then that was all I had. And at that time, I think if I mapped it out, it was about 3.5 miles back. So I take my last swig and just kind of do the, I got to get this done. So
And this is September.
Yeah, this was about the 3rd week in September, 2nd to last week, if that lines up about the
Typically
same.
can be pretty warm.
It was toasty. I was in a t-shirt, so it was pretty toasty. So on that hillside, I got everything taken care of, got 4 quarters. Didn't opt out to take the hides. I did a skull mount on this antelope, so it just had the head and 4 quarters.
Tenderloins.
They're
only about that big.
Oh, they were good.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loaded it one trip. I'm like 3.5 miles. I'm not coming back. I'm doing this all. So, yeah, strapped that pack on, and it took a while to even get that thing up. And that was the first experience I've had with that. The Wyoming antelope that I shot, I did 2 trips. It was about a mile, so it was fairly easy back and forth. This one, I did it all. And Ryan, you can attest, you're the workhorse over here because, man, that about done me in. So anyway, I get it on my back and start hiking the 3.5 miles back out. And it wasn't as much as it was like up and down hard. I did have to cross that creek again, but that ended up being okay. It was just distance. And I went pretty slow, so it took time. The grass was pretty tall, so walking through that taller grass was tough. But yeah, I get back. Finally, no water, and I mean you can imagine how
you're dead.
You can imagine how thirsty I was. And I had my little grill in my truck, and I wanted a cheeseburger, and I brought that. So I grill up a cheeseburger to fuel me back up, and I take one bite and try to swallow that thing, and it's like pins and needles down my throat.
And you
burning.
drink water by this point, though. You got back to the truck.
I was chugging, but I just the damage was done for then anyway. So yeah, I took that one bite, pins and needles, and chucked that burger out for the coyotes because it was not happening. So yeah, just ended up having a water supper that evening, which was probably much needed. But looking back, and even at the time, like, yeah, okay, it sucked, but man, I was high on the mountain right then. Like that was awesome success. So that was pretty cool. But long story, but ended up, just you guys can all attest to this. Just the I don't know. I wouldn't say the pain was what made it awesome, but
it was the adventure. It was
the adventure. That's
the newness, the unknown, the experience. Yeah, and you can't tell that story without smiling. We can't listen without a big smile on our face. I'm sure the rest of everybody else out there in podcast land can hear how much that experience was awesome and impactful and fun. And there's a few things that jump out at me that make it awesome. One of the things that since you've been telling that story, that I've been replaying in my head is I've done this before on animals, but I've never done it and then gone and killed it. But I've done it in a spotting scope, probably more than binos. But where you're glassing for something and you see something out of focus and you pull that wheel in, and then that out of focus object becomes razor sharp clear. And then when you hit, God, look at that. And to go from, okay, all right, stay calm. It's day one. That's just an antelope. That's just an antelope to, hey, okay, yeah, game changer. We're going to kill that sucker. That feeling when you pulled that wheel back on your binoculars and that soft image became razor sharp, that feeling is the one that we all chase. I think that feeling is probably, at least for me, more enjoyable than actually going and killing the animal. That feeling of,
that's the first bit of excitement. I mean, yeah, you're excited when you first sit down and you start looking through the glass. But when you find something, that's the first real bit of excitement.
And then I found it, and then to have it's just another antelope, and then wait a minute, and then you pull that focus in, and then your heart rate's beating up through the roof now, and you start strategizing. He's going this way, and where's the wind at? And there's a hill over there. And to me, that of all the things that jump out at me of that story that make it as awesome as it was, that right there, I know that emotion and that feeling and that excitement. I can't wait to have it again.
Yep. This was an inline muzzleloader, a newer inline.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think a 2.5 to 10 scope on it with the BDC.
Oh,
if I remember right.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
It's a great combination for an inline muzzleloader.
Let's talk about that rifle specifically, because if you're hunting the plains, you need this rifle right here.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know if you'd say run of the mill, not really, but it's just anybody can go and buy. I got online and ordered up a.
Well, it was the CVA Plains.
Oh yeah, it was.
It's
The Plains rifle. So once I saw that, I need that.
Yeah.
Gotta have it.
And put a good scope on there.
Good scope. Great scope.
It's awesome, man. I really enjoy the thing. I remember hounding Ryan at the time. I ended up I took that Antelope with a 250 SST, I believe.
Cream of the crop for many years.
Well, I wanted the dang board driver. That was when board driver was in development.
Yeah,
and
You just didn't quite have any ready at that point.
Yeah.
Regardless, I know you shot some, and they were touching. I mean, you had a 3-shot sub-minute group with board driver FTX from a $400 right
outside.
muzzleloader.
That was even outside. So that was pretty sweet. Those things
and with your shooting too.
Well, that is saying a lot.
I get it.
Yeah. So I didn't get to scratch the board driver itch on that Antelope, but actually later that year, throw another little whitetail thing out. I did harvest a whitetail buck the last day of the season in December.
New Year's Eve
Last
buck.
light, New Year's Eve buck with the board driver. So I got that itch scratched.
Yeah, that was a cool story. Again, this is kind of the Antelope extravaganza here, but yeah, that was the last day of the season with that rifle that you got that year. Just took it out on the antelope hunt. Then you get December 31st, sun's going down, and you shot a dandy buck with the board driver.
Yeah.
So that's a good year to be a muzzleloader.
That was my year, yeah. That was all muzzleloader that year. I wasn't able to have any luck with the bow, and I didn't have any luck with the rifle, but muzzleloader was the ticket that year. So I'd take it over.
Yeah. So you guys drew the tag for the same unit that Judd had all that success in, and I want to hear from you guys. What are your, not expectations to sound in a pretentious way, but what are you guys going out there to look for? Maybe what's some strategy, knowing what you know from Judd's hunt and experience? Are you looking for a certain size, shape, character, score? What are you guys after out there?
I'm not picky at all. So I've only killed one other antelope buck, so my baseline is as long as it seems bigger than that one, it's
Send
go time. So it's not. I think I scored it's like 62. It's a buck. I mean,
That's just an antelope.
Yeah, it's just
Well, isn't that
having that mindset is tough for me. I'm gonna be like, oh, there's a buck. we're going after that one.
That's what I did last year in Wyoming.
Yeah, well, and I'm on Judd's team though with Antelope, where they really don't turn my crank, but every once in a while, when I was hunting in Wyoming with my dad for mule deer, and we come across some antelope that I was just like, oh my god, I'm not big into scoring antelope, but holy cow! So
Right.
when you see them, even regardless of the score, like Judd's buck, you see them, they got the character to that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're.
But
You're
it's Nebraska. It's not Wyoming. The antelope population is a fraction of, but there's still plenty of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say we're going after shoot the first one we see, but just play it by ear when you get there. Expect because of the tag, because of when we plan to go out there. I anticipate little pressure because the number
I think there's only
25 tags.
And you guys got 2 of them. So
Hey, that narrows it down.
Only 23 other guys can go on that hunt. So yeah.
So yeah, we plan on going out together. I could have drawn this last year. I think I had an 88% chance of drawing this last year, but I just bought
Busy
a point.
fall. Yeah.
It was a busy fall. I got the other antelope in Wyoming. Listen to that episode. Can't tell you what number, but we talked pregame, we talked postgame on the antelope.
That was the hunt that we drove the entirety of Wyoming.
Yes.
And had great pizza. That we had the Hawaiian pizza.
Lusk, Wyoming.
Well, that was in Lusk. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
delightful.
professionally seasoned by seasoned professionals. That was great
That's their
stuff.
catchphrase. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Preston slept from like 6 p.m. until I got the pizza and woke up the next day and killed the goat. Great experience.
The only
Great
one
hunt.
we saw. But anyway, yeah, it's not always cracked up what it's supposed to be. But I'm happy to be going out with Ryan.
Yeah. You guys
I'm
are broing
taking,
out.
Yeah.
I'm taking the camera.
Okay.
Ryan's going to shoot first, and whatever he wants to shoot, we'll get that sucker on film. You're going to take a little R&D project, right?
Potentially.
Potentially. That's the goal. We'll see if we got any stuff ready.
I think I'm gonna take this point right now to just veer off real quick and just talk about. So some people in and outside of our company, like get kind of weird when we're talking about R&D projects and stuff. And like reality is, we are a bullet and ammunition and other cool stuff manufacturer, and we have a team of people that are passionate users of this stuff. And we're always trying to build cooler stuff, better stuff that does better things. And yeah, we're going to have to do some R&D with those things. And you happen to be the guy to do it. So this is a great opportunity. And so, color me shocked. But yes, we have an R&D department, the team, and we are always working on new stuff when we're using new stuff. So I just think that's awesome. So sorry to jump in there.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
You're going to run an inline, I'm sure, with some Blackhorn 209, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Entry level inline muzzleloader. Yeah, I mean it's budget model, but hey, it shoots fine, shoots board drivers pretty darn good. So
Yeah, and you'll have that to fall back on if you're not ready with the other stuff.
Yep.
Mine will be a little bit different.
A little bit different muzzleloader for Preston Lentfer.
So yeah, I've got a smokeless muzzleloader, which I absolutely love. I don't know if we're big on plugs or whatever, but Luke at Arrowhead made this remage system for us. He does a Savage barrel nut as well, but I literally have an action. He sent me a barrel and a breech plug and a nut, and I screwed that sucker on and headspaced it with his gauges, and it hammers
Yeah, it absolutely
the
hammers.
bullets that he supplied. Hopefully, I'll have an R&D project. His is more likely to happen than mine.
Yeah.
But it hammers high BC muzzleloader bullets at 2650.
Yeah, and
so
it's in
308
it's in a
trajectory.
long-range hunting style HS precision stock on a
Yep.
Remington 700 with a good scope, with a good turret. Those smokeless muzzleloaders, pound sign not sponsored, but Luke at Arrowhead just makes tremendous stuff. And, not every state is given the blessing to smokeless muzzleloaders, and totally understandable. Nebraska's one of them that gives you the go-ahead. So, go ahead.
Here we go.
legal, might as well.
Yep.
Yep.
Preston,
for it.
now, is there a antelope that you're particularly after, or are you just a character hunter too?
I
Good
will
experience?
have the opportunity to film Ryan first and see what's out there, and at that point,
I didn't even know that. Okay.
whatever turns my crank, that's what's gonna happen.
So here's the twist I'm going to bring on. Your guys' other hunts that we'll get into a little later. What's first? Is the Nebraska's
first.
Oh, Nebraska's first.
I don't
I
know
will
about
be
you.
on a different trip
Oh,
pre-Nebraska.
So
Oh, is that
Will
gonna
that affect
That
your?
will definitely affect my
decision making?
my decision on what I'm actually how picky I'm going to be here in Nebraska.
At the end of the day,
it'll have
I'm
an
not
effect.
going to be extremely picky. That meat is the best meat that I
Yeah.
can harvest
Yeah, yeah,
from
it really
a wild
is.
animal. So
Yeah, I'll add. It depends on what kind of shot I can get, where it's at, the approach, the situation. I mean, if I get a give me 100-yard shot, it's gonna be hard to turn that down.
what
Yeah.
if it's a stud antelope at 500 and I hand you my gun and then I'll use yours later on?
Yeah, we'll play that by
We'll
ear.
play it by
Yeah.
ear. No, but it'll be fun. I've got some waypoints from Judd. I'm sure Ryan is an e-scouting son of a gun, and we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and Nebraska obviously being primarily privately owned, the days of knocking on the door and get permission to go hunt, they're not gone forever. But for elk and deer, people have really tightened up to pretty much I would say non-existent. The antelope don't have the best reputation for a crop farmer, so the landowners out there are generally, at least from what I've heard, because I haven't been out there to do it. From what I hear, though, they're a little bit more open to people hunting antelope just because they get a huge number of a huge number on their ag fields, and they do damage, and they're a problem. So they're a little bit more open to that. So you got options out there because we don't have a ton of public land, but
This unit is, I wouldn't call it small, but there is quite a bit of public on it. We're very lucky on this one.
excellent. And it sounds like, much like Judd, you guys are out there for character, out there to have a good time, to enjoy the experience. And more than anything, I think that's why I continue to like antelope hunting more and more. Is it's just the experience. It's if you put a stock on one and you blow it, well, you just turn around and go find some more and go do it again because they're a little bit easier to find, and our standards maybe aren't as high as if we were hunting, deer or elk.
Maybe just as excited to get back to the truck and boil a freeze-dried meal and eat it.
Yeah,
That's
or
exciting. I don't do that very often.
Ryan can shoot one, cook up a backstrap right there on the truck.
You guys aren't taking cheeseburgers?
Not after, they're not going to go out there and feed the coyotes.
Make sure we have water. That's
Yeah,
the main
take
thing.
water. Yeah.
That's great.
Whoops.
So that's the Nebraska hunt. That's a September season for you guys. So we're going to jump to Ryan here because Ryan, you told Judd you've got one before that. So you got a pretty unique opportunity. You and a few other friends here that are also mechanical engineers at Hornady come together, and you guys are going out of state on just a boys' trip chasing antelope. And this one will be in the great state of Utah. And that will be a pretty cool experience. How many of you guys are going?
I don't even know for sure. I think 4 or 5 of us, 4, 5, 6, something like that.
That's going to be a good time. Just anytime you can go to Utah. I mean, especially if you guys drive, you get to drive through the boring parts of Nebraska when it's dark.
Look at
Then you
all
get
the
to-
antelope in Wyoming.
You get to go to the cool parts of Nebraska when the sun comes up, and then you get to drive across Wyoming, which is so desolate, so few of people, so many antelope right off the interstate. It's just great. Great stuff.
Yeah, I've never even been to Utah, period. So
Okay.
Wow.
especially in that area where we're going, I'm excited just to see the landscape.
Yeah.
That'll be a rifle hunt, centerfire hunt.
Yep.
Cool.
Centerfire rifle. Yes, sir.
What are you taking for a centerfire rifle?
6.5 Creedmoor.
Hey, that'll
Yeah,
do.
That's my go-to.
Let's take a quick over to that rifle. And we've talked about it in another podcast, but you put together, I mean, the icon, in my mind, like the iconic, lightweight, kind of do-all for deer and antelope rifle. What do you got for a rifle?
That's a bighorn action, short action, 6.5 Creedmoor.
Zermatt, rather.
Zermatt arms,
Yes.
SR3.
Okay.
Proof carbon fiber pre-fit 20-inch,
20-incher.
and Iota Echo
Carbon
carbon fiber
fiber.
stock.
Beautiful.
Running
And it
big
weighs like
glass on
7
there.
pounds.
What are you
Yeah.
running for?
The
you got-
Razor
Yeah, AMG
AMG.
Razor.
AMG
Which,
it's heavy.
Well,
No,
it's 30 ounces.
28 ounces.
20. Yeah.
I think
Not
it's 30.
terrible. 30. But anyway.
Whatever.
It's under 2 pounds. So you're sub 9 pounds scoped up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just love that rifle. Short, compact, super capable, running the 143.
143s, factory ammo, precision hunter.
Yep, that's great combo. That'll be a good trip. Now, this one is on a private ranch. So are your expectations on size or anything, is that change up a little bit because it's more of a casual hunt?
Yeah, expectations are a little different based on other guys' experience out there. I mean, other guys in Hornady obviously been there, so the possibilities are a lot higher there. I feel
Oh, okay.
so. I feel like it's prudent to be a little more picky.
Yep. Understood.
So I probably will be. Yeah.
Makes sense. Now,
What's it going to take to get you to mount an antelope that you kill this year?
yeah, shoulder
I don't
mounted.
know.
What would that
Have
take?
you put any thought to that?
No, I've never shoulder mounted anything, so
Oh, okay.
it'll be a big deal for the first one.
Yeah.
Well, what better
don't
than a
know.
big stud antelope?
Yeah. And the score to me is not. I mean, it's whatever. Measure it so I know, and okay, I can base that for future reference. But depends what the situation's like, and if it's a really cool buck, then yeah, why not? Why not get him mounted?
It's a good
Fair
point. I didn't think about that. I was going to ask Judd, but you said you did the Euro mount on that
Yeah.
Nebraska buck, but you do got one mounted in the office.
I do have. A couple years prior to that, I did my first out-of-state hunt, public land hunt, went to Wyoming. And at that time, I don't know if there's any of these units left, so it tells you, I guess, how long
Yeah.
it's been. But it was a over-the-counter leftover tag for antelope. I bought and went. So kind of on a whim.
I've been to that unit hunting deer and looked up antelope, and it's not a no point unit now.
I don't know if there are any, but anyway, that's beside the point. But yeah, I went out there and did same thing, solo,
Love it.
a handful a day trip. And if we want to get into a little bit of strategy, I don't know accidentally, but I hoped it would work this way, and luckily it did. I went out there a couple days prior to the season opener and scouted around and tried to figure the place out. And I actually went out 2 times that summer. That was a big deal, and it still is. I mean, that was my first out-of-state hunt, so it just made it was even more rewarding when I went out there, did some scouting, just got the lay of the land. I went out there enough through a handful of times that I didn't need the maps to navigate or whatnot.
Well, you
I
felt
just
prepared.
yeah, it
That's
was
a good
it was
feeling.
cool. So anyway, chased him around prior to season opener. I found this chunk of public that I liked and kind of spent the whole afternoon out there just sitting up high, watching a bunch of antelope. There were some on public way back, but what I was really watching on a private hayfield right beside me, there was a whole crew of antelope out there. And I just had a feeling like one of those suckers has to come off on the public. So I kind of just camped there all afternoon, day before season, and about right at last light, a doe led a buck right under the fence on the public, and they ended up coming fairly close to me right below. I was up pretty high, and they were right below me, and I waited for it to get dark, watched them bed down, did my best to kind of mark where they were in hopes that, antelope I don't know a whole lot about them, but at the time, and maybe this is true, they don't move a whole lot in the dark. So with that hope in mind, I skirted clear around them, and I should have said this to you, just like anywhere. Holy cow, the traffic that evening of just hunters rolling in and driving by, and there's a crew that set up next to me, which ended up being quite a bit of fun, just swapping stories and having some company. We camped together. So anyway, I put those antelope to bed with hopes that they're going to be right there in the morning, go back to my tent, get some shut-eye, and I was go hard. I'm getting up early. I'm getting out there, going to be the first one there. I hear a vehicle pull up to our parking lot at like 2:30 in the morning, and I hear the door slam and footsteps. He's headed out. And I look at my watch when I'm laying in my tent and like, no way, man. You can have it. No way. I'm not doing that. And I lay there for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'm just like, why not? Why am I not going? If somebody else is going, why am I not going? So I load up at that time, by the time I get loaded up, it's about 3 in the morning, which I don't remember exactly when sunrise was, but it was a good roughly 4 hours prior to sunrise. So I load up and go out there, and where I had them marked, there was kind of a ridge, the last ridge in between me and them. So I just laid on the back side of that ridge, and I took my pack off and kind of laid it up to lay down. I don't think I ever fell asleep, but just kind of laid there and hung out. for the rest of that morning until first light. When shooting light hit, actual time, I creeped over the ridge, and it was overcast, so I couldn't see a stinking thing. And at that time, there was headlights and rigs. I could see headlamps heading in. I saw one guy walk past me not too far and walk pretty dang close to right where those antelope were, so I thought they were busted out. But it took about 15, 20 minutes so you could actually see with that thick overcast. And there was that antelope, that buck and that doe sitting right where I left them. So I had about a 20-minute hunt that morning, if you count legal light, but up early getting out there was kind of the ticket, I guess. Every now and then I'd do my little headlamp shine so like somebody would see like, oh, there's somebody over there, so go around. So had I not got up, and who knows, if I wouldn't have got up early, could have been somebody else there, could have been busted off, who knows. So the whole pre-opening day, putting them to bed and finding them that next morning worked out. So that was pretty cool.
Sounds like opening day on early teal season out of my favorite marsh.
Yeah.
Well, guys are just sleeping in the parking lot.
It's a good reason to mount that antelope, though, because it's not just he scored pretty good. It's the whole experience.
Yeah.
It was your first out-of-state hunt, your first Western or first antelope hunt, and then, to put in that much effort and the multiple trips and all that stuff, that's just cool.
To go on your point you said at the start of this podcast, because I was not prepared to tell that story, and now it's just got me smiling. I don't know, it was a good time.
Yeah,
it was cool.
All about. So that's we talked about 2 of the 3 tags. Now the third tag here is Preston has the creme de la creme of antelope hunts. Wyoming. I mean, it's not the best unit in the Wyoming, but it's
a dang good one.
I saw a lot of good antelope out there. We were out there this summer hunting prairie dogs.
We were out there this summer laying waste to prairie dogs. This place is just next level for prairie dogs, and we had a great time, had a good group of riders out there, and saw some goats.
Yeah, I think the hunt will actually take place on a different ranch, but my goodness,
and we're in the same
antelope were everywhere out there.
Yeah, you're in the same universe.
And a good group of folks that we're going to be hunting with it. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, that's
looking
pretty awesome.
real forward to it.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm going to be slightly picky, I think.
I think you can be picky. Judd, you've been out there. You can be pretty picky.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, when I went out there for calling coyotes in January, February-ish time frame, we didn't end up having any luck, but it was just cool. Spent the whole day out there with those guys, and the guys you're hunting with, as you know, like you said, there's some awesome guys.
So the family that we're with is just...
I enjoyed that time. That was worth it right there. The hunting was just something we were doing to pass the time, but just spending time with those guys, that was cool.
Yeah, that's going to be great. So we're saying you can be picky and not to throw a number on there like that's what you have to do, but you're legitimately looking for a 70+ inch goat for
and I think that's what they said you could probably expect.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Which is really tough because to me, you could say, all right, shoot. If there's 6 antelope out there, shoot the 70-incher. I don't know what that means.
Which one's that?
Yeah, this is like I can't field judge them, and I'm horrible at field judging deer. The only time I'm good at like field judging deer is when I take phone scope footage and then I go calm down for 4 weeks and then I review the footage and I can go, okay, yeah, honestly, I think that's a legit 135, 40-inch deer or whatever. So with an antelope, I really don't have anything to gauge it off of. Are you guys any good at that?
No. It depends how much time I have. I mean, if I'm looking at something and I'm not adrenaline rushing, I think I'm decent at it. But
so what are we looking
deer
for?
I shot last year, I thought was a 5.5-year-old deer, and it turned out to be 3.5.
We're looking for mass and cutter height and cutter length, right? Obviously, length of the horn.
Curl.
You're the expert on this.
I think we got a little divide here at the table because I think these guys over here are boom.
You guys are killers. Yeah, taste of blood.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just haven't done enough. I don't know.
When I
see one and my blood's boiling, that's the one right there.
And that's exactly the point when you saw that. You pulled that wheel of the binoculars into focus. There was no question about it. And that's for antelope. No questions asked. that's how I am. I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't know to shoot
Yeah.
what number it is. I don't know. But again, I haven't shot a lot of antelope.
Most of my antelope hunting experience is archery on Nebraska public ground. So that is not easy getting in
Yeah.
range. So in that case, it's an antelope and it's a buck.
Legal buck.
Hey, we can get in
Yeah.
range. We're trying to kill that buck. So that just rolls over to everything from.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on that many antelope hunts, so maybe in the future I'll change
Yeah.
that mindset. But for now,
Well, I'm excited
buck.
for everybody's season, and to go back to Preston's hunt specifically, that's in Wyoming. There, the family that we're going to be with, like we mentioned, is just fantastic, and it's really nice because every single one of us is a young man. All but one of us have small children, and when you can get home in 6, 7, 8 hours, and that makes it a little bit nicer. You know, the 14-hour drive to Utah, a little harder to stomach sometimes than getting over to Wyoming. And we are so lucky as Nebraskans that that's our neighbor to the west. 'Cause
Yeah.
a lot of opportunity there.
Really cool. Don't forget to buy your points if you're into that.
Yeah.
Or do.
well-
I don't care.
Yeah. All right. So that's what we're looking at for the 2022 antelope season. I mean, we've got a lot of tags, a lot of opportunity. I want to circle back to not individual hunts, but Judd's got some great experiences. I've hunted out for antelope. You guys all have. From a strategy and gear standpoint, Judd brought up strategy. We need to go back and talk more about that. Like from the strategy standpoint and the gear standpoint, is there any difference from your guys? You know, Ryan's a very technical guy, and he's very meticulous in his gear and his prep and his pack system. Like, what are you guys doing for strategy and gear that you think will lend you to success this season?
I'll go first. Mine's probably more boring than yours. I'm guessing.
Oh,
Hit
We'll
us,
see.
Preston.
Go for
What
it.
do you
Before
got?
you take it out, but let's put a disclaimer out there. Like, as we talk through this, we all have few antelope
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to claim. So we're open for learning. So if there's input, give it to us. Comment or you know,
Yeah.
get a
At the
hold of us.
table, I think we've collectively shot 6 antelope.
Yeah.
Maybe 7.
1, 2,
Two.
3.
one.
I've got
4.
3.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we shot 7.
So by no means experts, but
No. Well, and quite the opposite, but that's good. And I'm glad Judd brought that up, because not only do I want people to comment about strategy and gear, comment some field tips for getting kind of a rough antelope score when you're behind the glass.
Yeah.
I'd read through some comments on that. It'd be helpful. And I'm sure there's plenty of information out there. I just haven't gone and searched for it. But
Right.
if you know some tricks, drop them down in there.
Heck yeah.
anyway, I'm going to have a pack that's capable of carrying meat once quartered.
The entire antelope.
The entire antelope. I've done it before with a $25 Menards bag.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that ever again, but I have a
Yuck.
much better pack now. There's going to be 4 16-ounce waters in there, a Havalon knife, some game bags.
Trail
la-
mix. You're a trail mix guy. You got to have trail mix in there.
Yeah, it depends on the situation.
I've hunted with you for a half of a decade, Preston. You got trail mix in there.
I like your
Mountain mix from Walmart.
Yep, from anywhere. But peanuts, sunflower seeds are great in there too. Raisins, M&Ms.
Yeah.
Anyway, that depends on the situation. Because when we went out last year, I had literally had water, game bags, and a knife.
Mhm.
On my chest, I had laser range finding binoculars, a gun, and a tripod.
Getting it done,
That's it.
son. That was great.
So, for me, if I'm going back to the truck every day, I might, depending on how far we anticipate going, I might add a few
Yeah.
snacks, maybe another bottle of water, maybe fill up the actual bladder in the pack. But that's about it.
I want to get your guys' opinion on this here. I'm going to throw it right out there at you. Now, we are, on this side of the table, dyed in the wool, laser range finding binoculars, got to have no questions asked. Now, where I'm going with this, though, is I somewhat recently, within the last 2 seasons, started hunting with a spotting scope, like pretty much at all times, because I found myself like, gosh, that animal's 1,400 yards away. And the difference between me going over there or me not, I need to know if it's worth my time. Now, with antelope, we just all got done saying we really don't know what we're after. We're just looking for something really cool that gets us excited. You taking a spotting scope.
I should have mentioned that. Yes, I have a spotting scope. My pack has got a perfect little pocket for it.
Perfect.
I've got the Razor 60, 65 millimeter, whatever it is.
Yeah, the
objective
middle
lens.
one, the 20 to 48 or something.
Not the giant one, not the small one. I think it's a perfect hunting spotting scope. That'll be along with me as well.
Yep, and always taking the tripod like you mentioned.
Carbon fiber. I don't even think it's a name brand. It weighs probably 3 pounds.
Okay, carbon
total.
fiber.
And I could stand off of it and shoot.
Glass from it and shoot from it. All right, so that's more of a gear, but from a strategy gear standpoint, let's get it on the other side of the table. What are you guys doing?
So I'm probably it's not going to be much different than any other hunt for me. I'm mainly a whitetail guy, but I consider myself unique in the gear aspect for whitetail because I try to set myself up to be able to kill a deer or an antelope wherever and be able to carry that whole thing out in one trip. So maybe I'm a little over prepared most times, but so I'll have a pack. Like you mentioned, I can carry out a whole animal, quartered, game bags, or maybe even just pillowcases. We'll see if I actually order real game bags this year.
We got a
Pillowcases
Sportsman's
work just
Warehouse
fine.
over at
in
Sportsman's,
town
yeah.
that has quartering bags, which is new for us here in the central Nebraska part. So there's no reason not to have them.
Wild.
Spotting scope, tripod, small med kit, water, some snacks, binos, rangefinder. Not laser rangefinding binos. I'll have the handheld. Mostly because I haven't made that leap into the up to the laser binos yet.
On our hunt, I'll get a range for you. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks.
You bet.
Hey, and that's even more reason I don't need to worry about it because you'll be my ranging guy.
This just hit me.
This just in.
News 11. Ryan also went on a death hike and ran out of water.
You have done that.
Yeah, we talked about this probably on this podcast last year. I think when we talked. You and fellow engineer bombed out there like 11 miles in and ran out of water on your way back carrying out a deer.
Yeah,
probably advice from novice hunter: take more water than you need.
Yep.
If you need to lose weight, drink it.
Yeah. You also taking a spotting scope. You've kind of made that move. And when you're hunting antelope, Judd's first Nebraska story that he shared with us is a great example of why to take a spotting scope is even when you're hunting, public land in Nebraska where, there's a lot of competition out there, you're likely to see lots of game at varying ranges. And this way, if you are trying to be more discerning, you can just throw the spotter in the tripod, see them, know it, move on with your life. And now you're not wondering did I make the right move? Now you can know with a little bit more.
Or conserve your energy. Say, that's not something I want to go after.
Absolutely.
And you can get your cool video on your phone scope too. So
that's Instagram.
That's
Watch
cool
out.
to have later.
It's cool to bring back to work, just like the conversation we're having here. I enjoy that the most. Like, hey, check this out, showing everybody at work.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of that, we're gonna have to watch that video of your Nebraska hunt. Now that you've told that story again, I need to see that.
He'll need to edit it, and you guys need to put in the comments, Judd,
cool.
Please edit your antelope hunt.
Yeah,
put it
it's
to feature film.
Yeah, make a film out of it.
It's pretty rough. It'd be a rough cut, but the hunt is there. It wouldn't be probably the most interesting thing, but
no. But even if nobody else ever watched it or ever cared,
you can just click on it.
You would know, and you would care, and you would watch it, and
the
you'd
whole
smile, and you'd be able to show, your friends, and one day maybe your kids or something, and they think that would be cool.
That's
I know.
True.
So from a strategy standpoint, are you guys going to go out at all preseason, or you guys have both been out there before, so you kind of know?
I got experience in that area.
Okay.
Several years worth. So
that particular spot, I've been close to there.
Yeah.
I think we'll wing it.
Yeah,
hey, you know what? I'm a big fan of that. I do a lot of that in my professional and non-professional career, and it's tended to work out okay.
It's far enough away. The fall is busy enough between now and then, and
gas
gas
right.
isn't cheap. So.
No. So, Judd, real quick, now you mentioned some of your strategy, to get out there, especially when you're out of state and you've never been to that universe before. So, you got out there a couple times before season in Wyoming. From a strategy standpoint, do you still find yourself doing that, trying to just physically get out there and just see it, just so you get comfortable with it?
Yeah, I'm huge onto that, and it's almost more for just the experience. It just builds up more suspense. You enjoy. There's a little more to it. I could relate that to Nebraska elk. 4 residents, that's a once in a lifetime tag. I haven't done it in recent years, but I've ran some trail cameras out west, northwest part of the state. It got pictures of elk or whatnot, just to add to it. You know, when you draw that tag, you got a little more into it. Well, yeah, hopefully someday.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I don't know. Strategy, I mean, I'm still learning, just like anybody. That, like I told the story about putting that antelope to bed. Whether that happens every time, I don't know, but it worked out.
Worked for you
that time.
Yeah.
I will say though, as we were talking on the gear, the thing that I changed from my first Wyoming antelope hunt to the Nebraska one was the pant I was wearing. When I went out first in Wyoming, I had a merino, majority merino pant because, it's Wyoming. It's super hot. It's at that time, I guess it was late September, early October. But anyway, I was, ready for all this heat. So I wanted the lightest pant I could have. I don't even know how, because I really wasn't in too rugged a terrain, but those pants got shredded. So
looked like Tarzan.
Yeah, they were stitched and everything after that, and I enjoyed the pant because they were cool, lightweight. But for whatever reason, just even the knees from crawling, they were torn up, used and
not
abused.
Cheap pants.
No, they were not. So going to the Nebraska hunt here a couple years ago, there's a little give and take. I went to a heavier pant, not super heavy, not insulated by any means, but a heavier pant just to have a little bit more durability. And I super enjoyed those. The one thing I'd say on the next one I do, or some advice for you guys, this pant that I'm wearing now has removable knee pads. And
the cactus.
I'm not a huge fan of like having them in all the time. Like they're just kind of weird when you walk, but I'm going to have those things in my pack somehow. So like, okay, it's go time. And, if you don't have to pull up and get something done, if you have a little move to make to get into position, I'm pulling those out and putting those in because
the cactus, right?
Oh yeah.
I have some. They live in my pants forever. They're awesome for like NRL hunter stuff.
Oh yeah, shooting
where
matches,
you're on
taking
on the clock, and like sometimes you just don't think, and so you're doing things with your body that maybe you shouldn't. And the knee pads are fantastic.
Yeah, I think on the pants,
I used to make fun of folks that had it, but
no. Well, and I think the first antelope, the only antelope that I killed, I laid my gun down. As I was squatting, I took a range, 389 yards, and then I dove into the gun because they had been moving and they weren't super interested in staying around. So I was trying to move quick, and I dove into cactus, and it was like, man, regret that decision. Yeah, that stuff goes home with you. You can pull out the needles, but like, yeah, that hurts, and your body's got to push out that stuff over the next couple weeks.
We did that hunt wrong.
We did.
I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah.
For anybody listening, and you've got a tag where you wake up, we went out there the night before, or we went out there in the dark,
set up a tent at 10:30 p.m.,
walked out of the tent while it was light, and just looked at antelope all around us. When that happens, maybe take your time and be picky. But we shot the first two bucks that we saw.
Well, no, because the way it went down was I was still in the tent getting dressed. I'm not sure where your brother was, and then you were like, well, there's just some antelope over there. And they were like, I think 84 yards away, but they were in the opposite direction that we were going to go because the piece of public that we were on opened up really big to our east, and so we went east instead of west. But we could have went west and pursued those goats.
Yeah.
We just didn't, and then we shot the first two illegal bucks we saw.
Everywhere. Yeah, we should have been more patient.
Yeah, we should have.
But that's all right.
The other thing
live and learn
in the pants world is heat dump.
I got heat dump pockets.
Yeah, yep. I can't find a pair of pants that fit my unique lower half structure that have zips, but one day I will, and I'm looking forward to it.
If you own a clothing company and you're watching this and you look at Seth and you have pants that'll fit him, holler.
Yeah, it's a problem. But nonetheless, I'm sure I'll find something. On the gear side of things, you got a big spotter. Are you carrying it?
I do.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
I'm a whitetail guy, so that was kind of the reason I got that spotter. My favorite time of year, almost, I wouldn't say as much as hunting, but it's right up there, is now, the velvet season. And just life's busy. I haven't been able to get out yet and do that, but I got plans this weekend. I'm driving, hooking that thing to the mirror, I'm hitting the bean fields, I'm hitting the alfalfa fields.
Yeah.
So that's why I got the big one, because during that season, the velvet season, I want as much
Full,
light as I can
yeah,
because
all the zoomies.
I'm looking at last light. So
yeah, a
the
lot of
big
times
85.
they're tucked up against the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm cruising with that thing anyway. So that's what I got. So right now, that's what I'm packing when
Yeah,
I'm going
but
west.
you're taking
too.
it, and that's important.
Yeah.
For me personally, this is something that I've done for a long time. Not really talked about it to maybe anybody. I'm sure I've mentioned it to somebody, but sounds like I need to get this information out to you guys. So the way I run my pack is I fill my water bladder full of water, and I usually put the hose inside the pack. Sometimes the hose is outside the pack, and I do not drink it, period. And I run either an Nalgene, old school canteen with some bottles of water. And then if I ever find myself out of water, I've got 3 liters that I haven't touched. And I've done that for a long time, and it just works. That way you always have a little reserve if you need it. And 3 liters of water, if you're on a pack out, is more than sufficient. But I don't know. Take that with you. Probably, use it, don't use it. Yeah, up to you. But for me, that has worked because I've got to the point where I was like, oh, wow, I thought I had another 20 ounce of water in there, and I do not. Then you got the hose and back to drinking.
Yep.
Take that for what it's worth. I would say on the Antelope side, from a strategy standpoint, because I'm so naive and new to this, and I'm hunting character bucks, and usually it's just kind of a wing and a prayer type trip. I'm not getting out a ton early for scouting. If I can if I can hunt a unit, whether or not it's for antelope or not, or for deer or not, but I'm hunting something else there, then there's reasons to go back. Like that unit in Wyoming, I hunted deer there. Well, I'm going to hunt antelope there at some point. I know I've seen the land, and I like, you get enough people that hunt similar areas, then you can share stories and stuff. And I feel like there's some it's almost scouting, I guess you'd call it, that way.
Yeah, get to know the place. It's also really fun just going someplace new too, in my opinion.
It is, yeah, completely new.
You've never seen this before in your life, and you have to hunt and find
Yeah.
game animals there.
Yep. And then on my side, tripod, can't argue against it. Laser range finding binos, and I'm definitely carrying a spotter. I don't have the giant one. I don't have the little one. It's kind of right in the middle there. And to me, got to have them. Those 3 items for sure. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about this old antelope extravaganza for 2022? A lot of opportunity out here. I can't wait. I mean, it's not long. I mean, it's going to be 6-7 weeks,
It's
and it'll
early,
be.
but it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming right along. And I know we're recording this on a Friday. Monday morning, we're going to be back to getting to work. And, oh, my God, I saw this over the weekend. Look at this picture. And, like,
We're going glassing for velvet bucks. I am.
Hey.
Judd is.
every single morning that I drive to work, I just started doing this here recently. I take the long way to work. I kind of jut on some gravel by my house just so that I can look at deer on the way into work. Judd and I talked about this. He knows exactly the road I'm talking about, and there's a stretch, and they're just there. And, I'll stop and there's no traffic on the road, and, I'll stop and glass on them for a while. I haven't seen a buck yet. Don't really care. I don't know. I'm getting excited about this time of year, and the beans are green and all the grass is still green, and the deer look as red as Judd's shirt right now. I mean, they look really red. They stand out, and just gets me excited for the fall.
I got my trail camera SD cards wiped, organized. I need to get batteries and get those trail cameras out. I know you guys are doing the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Excited to get out there. I haven't done a whole lot yet, so behind the 8 ball, but yeah. I also got to scratch the public land whitetail itch. That's something I got to get done too.
Well, and you guys, I say you guys, across the table, Ryan and Judd, you guys have put in some time to a very particular spot that I don't know how you just ended up there, and it turns out like, man, that's a pretty cool spot. I guess I'll invest some effort into that one.
Yeah, it's just cool. There's other spots too, I would assume, but I don't. As we were talking about, going out to a new spot for the first time, what hit me right when he said that was like, after you do that, that place is special. So that's kind of the same place, the public spot that we're messing around on. It's like maybe there's a better spot out there, but this one seems pretty good, and it's
Well, and you saw good bucks out
yeah.
there. that helps.
But it kind of just became the spot now, so we'll see. Hopefully it
You got a
pays
personal
off.
vendetta against it now.
Yeah, maybe that is.
Not a vendetta.
Not a
It's-
vendetta.
Yeah, it's more of like
An
a
attachment.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything, if you invested a chunk of time into it, it's like at some point you got to see your return or cut bait. So
I struggled with that with one public spot that you guys know I hunted a lot for a lot of years and had some issues there, but
Mm-hmm.
it was that I kept constantly going back there because I felt like I knew it so well, and I'm like, man, it's got to happen for me there because I've seen so many good bucks and had so many close encounters, but it just never seal a deal. Like after a while, it's like, man, the pressure was just too much, but it was that connection with that spot
Yeah.
that just kept pulling me back there.
Yeah. Oh, and it wasn't 3 hours from home, which is
Right.
helpful too, and you can get to it pretty close. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to get to work Monday morning and hear, Judd, what you spotted, or to hear, some other stories, or I found this different piece, or I got this gun dialed in, or I'm going to, hand load this bullet or whatever. I just love talking hunting, and it is upon us. And like you mentioned at the beginning there, Preston, I feel like this emotion came earlier than it did last year.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it.
yeah,
That's awesome.
That's what drives the business.
Yeah, I guess, guys. If nothing else, I really appreciate the conversation because it just made me that much more excited. And you guys are going to have a great fall. I know what you guys got in the works outside of the antelope hunts, but specific to the antelope hunts. Fantastic opportunities. You're going to be getting a lot of it documented on film, which is cool because I like to share in that. And you're just going to go out there, have a great time, enjoy the West, and have a great hunt. And I couldn't be happier for you guys, and it's going to be great. So hopefully, fast forward a few months, we're doing a recap, and we've got antelope heads on the table here.
That would be
Oh,
cool.
that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything, closing remarks? You want to go around the table? Anything else?
I just appreciate folks listening to us ramble
Yeah.
for X amount of minutes here. And if you listen to us the whole way, we appreciate it.
Right on.
yeah, I'd say too. Hopefully, a handful of Nebraska flatlanders talking about antelope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, hopefully that was entertaining.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, I bet the listeners can hear and feel the passion that we have, because I'm looking at my heart rate has changed. So I know I'm getting excited about it, and I think that will go through to the listener. Hopefully they enjoyed it. Like you mentioned, it's just great that people will tune in for an hour and 20 minutes and listen to us talk about something we're passionate about. So we do appreciate that. And with that, guys, thanks for coming on the podcast.
You bet. It's our
It was
pleasure.
fun.
How do I do for the first time?
Judd, you
Knocked
did
her out
great.
of the park.
Yeah. If you guys want to hear more Judd, we will get more Judd. He's got some good stories, some good perspective. And again, thanks again. Everybody, we appreciate you listening in, and we'll catch you on the next one.